everyone, my name is Farah and I am the CPG industry lead here at TikTok Middle East. Welcome to TikTok with Qahwa. We believe that all great stories are shared over a cup of coffee. Our guest today is G, head of media and The Barn, which is the in-house digital agency for Arla Middle East. Welcome to TikTok with Qahwa and thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Farah. Thank you for having me.
Can I kick off this session by asking you to introduce yourself in about 80 characters or less?
Sure. Mom of two, animal lover.
Okay.
And I've been in the media industry for 10 years or so.
Okay, wow.
Probably a bit more than 80 characters.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Yeah. So, sorry in advance if I get you in trouble with your brand team.
Yeah, you might.
Question.
What?
Which is your favorite brand out of the Arla portfolio in the context of Ramadan? Or in the context of storytelling, actually?
I want to talk about the upcoming communication and new communication that we have for Puck.
Okay, that's exciting.
Yeah, we reworked the brand, the playbook, and we came up with a new creative platform. And of course, there was a lot of work that was done on understanding our Puck consumer or the Puck mom. We came up with this new platform, which is called Your Way Shines Best.
All right.
It very much talks to the tension that we have in today's world, where there's a lot of expectations on moms, and there's so much that you need to do. So we want to drive that type of message where we continue to be your ally.
Right.
To make your life easier, because we know that there's so much pressure on you and there's so many things that you need to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So we want to just like give you time back. And at the same time, we don't want you to overwork yourself, because whatever you do is the best for your family.
Yeah.
So don't succumb to like the expectations and all of that you see every day. And I think it's a really powerful platform. So I'm actually very excited for this to come out. It's going to come out in the next few months.
You were talking about tension, which is, for I think me, really interesting, because Ramadan and the food industry go hand in hand. They're like bread and butter. Forgive the pun. But it's also challenging in so many ways, because there are so many food brands, across the region and internationally that also play in this space. Ramadan, of course, revolves around iftar and suhoor and the coming together over food. But then you have the clutter of all of these brands trying to play in that same space. So as TikTok, our narrative this year and our proposition to brands was really, yes, stay true to your brands, but belong differently. What are your thoughts on that, of how to really, challenge that clutter? And what are your thoughts on how to belong differently as Arla brands?
I mean, look, it is a very big challenge. And it's one of those, that time where we're like, oh my God, what are we going to do this year? I mean, Ramadan passes and then we're already starting planning for the next Ramadan, because there's a lot of work that goes into it because of what you said. It is a time that is extremely important to our brands, but also very difficult because there's so many communications, and to some extent, a lot of things look the same. And with people spending, or with less and less attention span of people, it becomes also more difficult to connect or resonate. So we're trying, and I won't tell you that we've cracked a perfect formula. It's still a work in progress. We're learning as we go, because there's so many things that you need to get right. So there's the challenge of how you make the content Ramadanish, where you have those components that make it Ramadan centric, be it the Ramadan music or the lanterns or stuff like that. And then you need to get your product message or your brand message, and also you want to stand out from the clutter. So there's a lot of moving parts that you want to get right. And there's two things that we want to do. We use this as a space or an opportunity to drive a brand message, so to drive brand affinity, but also to drive our products, because it's the time where you want to use a lot of our products, right? And I think the brand affinity part is easier, because what you stand for as a brand is not the same as others. So that tends to already be differentiated. So that's good. but it's the other part. It's the communication of the functional part, you know,
Right.
and the product usage, product RTBs. And sometimes your product offers something similar to another brand, but you still want them to choose yours, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. So how do you deliver that message, which in essence might not be very different, but you still want to stand out from the clutter? And this is where we use different tools and features, whether it's and the creative treatment itself.
Right.
So like when the content starts, there needs to be something that happens that is consistent with us. You know, something falling from in the screen, like a gimmicky thing, or a specific sound that you utilize. And we're still experimenting with those different components to see what we get right. But yeah, it's definitely a big challenge for us. Much more so on communicating the product functionality rather than anything else.
I can completely understand that, because I think you're so right. And I've never, you know what, I've never actually thought about it in that way, in that the brand messaging really needs to be kind of the soul of the campaign, because like, as you said, functionality is similar.
Yeah, exactly. So we try to benefit as much as possible from a brand halo effect.
Yeah.
You know, if we get you to love our brand, and you develop that affinity, and that's why we need to appeal to a very strong insight, because that's the real way into your heart.
Yeah.
So we really bank on that, but we still need to communicate product, and that's still where we're experimenting with.
Really interesting. Thank you for that insight.
No problem.
So I just wanted to pose the question to you. What do you think are the good components of storytelling, especially, you know, I would say during Ramadan or on a brand level as well?
I would say, well, first of all, like I just said, having a strong insight that you want to relate to. And honestly, I think the concept or the definition of good storytelling is evolving.
Okay.
So we would also think, if we want to deliver a nice story, it has to first have a beginning and a middle and a plot and an end, and then it needs to trigger this emotion. If it doesn't make you cry, it means you feel it, you know? I didn't see a tear, so X. But especially with the platform's existence, like TikTok, we're seeing that evolve more and more into entertainment and good content, as opposed to just good storytelling.
Right.
So to be able to adapt to how consumer behavior is today, content consumption, and still deliver something that is relevant to the brand, we're finding it makes much more sense to gear up towards just good content.
Yeah.
And that can be in the form of using content creators. Honestly, we've been really developing good relationships with content creators on TikTok to deliver a message for the brand in a different way. And the job done is getting a person to see your ad, to see that type of content and make it memorable.
Yeah.
So if we can pose a question to consumers afterwards, or when I tell you this message, what brand do you think of, or does it actually drive top of mind and it scores well, then that's job done. I think it made it memorable enough.
Exactly.
And that's what we want. We want our content, or how we evaluate content, to be good, or a story to be good, is if it's memorable enough that helps it stand out with that pool of audience that are bombarded with so many messages and so much content today. So if we're able to actually be memorable, and that's a successful.
I mean, look, I think you guys have done a great job with that, honestly, to be fair. Like, something that comes to mind, and I know maybe it's not a Ramadan campaign, but it's, and forgive me if I get the title wrong, but Craft with Music, where you guys used, because that was great, because you guys evoked
that's actually a very good example.
Yeah, exactly, all around music, and you took all of those old school beats and like reinvented them for your products, and like you said, tapped into creators to experiment with different ways of using your products. So we've been talking a lot about, you know, storytelling and what makes a great story. And we've also been talking about, you know, how you as Arla have deep dived into different insights and are trying to bring that out through your communication in different ways. And I think you touched on communities and creators earlier, which is, you know, synonymous with TikTok, because TikTok users really do create and nurture communities around their different passion points. And we have communities like the Mom CKOs, the Chief kitchen officers, you know, the culinary performers, the Gen Z gastronomes, and even the foodie gamers. So I wanted to share some truths about our different TikTok communities in the F&B world. And I wanted to get your thoughts and kind of feedback on either what you think about this stat or how you think that Arla can tap into that. You ready? All right. Food and entertainment go hand in hand. So last year, what we saw on TikTok was during Ramadan, video views for food content reached 16 billion, which is absolutely insane. So I think you were right on the money when you were saying that blending food into their passion points is really the way to go, because I think the communities are saying exactly that back to us. Sorry, I didn't let you answer on that one. Like I just answered it myself, but anything.
But that's exactly true. And we've been partnering with those content creators. I mean, for Ramadan, we wanna, because there's two things that we want to do. We use it as an opportunity to drive overall brand affinity. So we want to talk to consumers with something very relevant, like I said, going back to an insight. And we do it more on a bigger brand purpose kind of level. So master brand, like the No Super Mama campaign that I really love for Puck. I'll talk to you a bit more about that in a bit. But also, obviously it's Ramadan, so it's that occasion where you want to talk about food and usage. So we want to hammer on all of those different products that we have that can benefit you. We're partnering with content creators where they're already using the platform to communicate what they're doing or how to help others, you know, come up with the creative ideas, because you don't want to do the same thing over and over again. It's a season where you have so much people over. So we're partnering with all those different content creators that help us bring all of that to life in an entertaining way.
Perfect. 60% of users say participation lifts their spirits, and that's really the key in them making purchase decisions. So I know we've been talking a lot about, you know, creating content. What are your thoughts on creating participation around your brand?
I mean, communication used to be more like one-directional from the brand to the consumer. And I think what we've been seeing more and more of, or what people want more and more of, is through the consumers and also fostering communities. And I think that's one of the reasons why working with content creators works so well, because they feel closer to the end consumer. At the end of the day, they're following them because they relate to them or they look up to them. So it also gives us the opportunity to be more authentic and credible. And we also like to listen to what our consumers saying when we're doing that type of content. So we look at the comments, we evaluate the sentiment. So the job doesn't just stop at, okay, I worked with this content creator, job done, I got X number of reach or impressions. But we want to also see, like, is it working? Are people finding this type of content useful? Is it good for them? So we know as well how to evolve, what to do more of, what to do less of. And you can only know that when you treat them as more of a community. So you can also hear them and see what they would like to see more of. Speaking of communities, and I think you touched upon this earlier, are you ready for the last stat, which touches exactly on this? So the TikTok food community are 22% more likely to own 3 or more gaming devices versus the average user. It makes a lot of sense because aside from just gaming, I think TikTok users in general over-index on seeking experiences from brands. And that's really synonymous also with the gaming industry. So because we see that's very big and prominent on TikTok, we want to see, like, do we have a brand that can talk to that kind of demographic, but also stay true to what the brand delivers on or the purpose? And we've identified the brand like Starbucks to be a very good fit for that. Because one, of course, as a product, it just makes a lot of sense that you use or you consume while you're gaming. So aside from it just being there in gaming context, we also wanted to talk to those gamers on TikTok. So we've identified gamers that are also influencers. So we would partner up with them on TikTok, and also we would use content that situates our product in those situations. So in gaming context, as the content itself, because we would want to use a combination of brand-led content, but also content creators.
Right.
So when it's with content creators, we would let them use our product and on their TikTok content. But when it's with brand, we want to identify those scenarios where we can place our product in it. And I think it's something that we started doing recently, but I think it's really working well for us.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity for so many of your brands to play in that space and really make the most of it. Let's talk about some of your previous campaigns and kind of just reflect on their success, but also how you're going to evolve them into this year. So I know you've kind of tapped into the cooking aspects, you've tapped into moms. How has the role of content really evolved in, your communication for Ramadan?
I'll talk about the No Super Mama campaign for Puck. So it's a campaign that we started doing last year. Started off on Mother's Day and then also Ramadan. And by the way, we're using it again this year because we still think it's very relevant, but we've evolved. So we've looked at how the content performed last year. I think it got a lot of positive sentiment expressed towards the campaign. It was very relatable. And what we've done last year is we've communicated through the brand, but we also partnered up with content creators, where they were sharing personal incidents where they felt like they're in that context of the No Super Mama. And if I would just give a bit of context to the campaign, so we wanted to appeal to that insight, which is very true, and probably a lot of moms relate to it. There's a lot of pressures and high expectations that you get, that you face on a daily basis, especially from social pressures or peer pressures. And there's this like perfect image of what a perfect mom should be like, or a super mom or superhero. And we wanted to let moms know that they don't need to overwork themselves to appeal to a specific expectation. But however they are is already good enough. So we wanted to reinforce that message. And that's a campaign that we started off last year, and we partnered up with influencers so they can tell their own version of that story. This year we continued with it, and we started to use a new type of content with those content creators. So there's like, raise your finger if you've ever burnt a meal in the last minute.
So
raise
super
your finger
native,
if your kids have done something. Because we've been seeing that type of content shared a lot on TikTok. So we wanted to utilize that and bring in the brand perspective. That is, I think, it's not making it work really well.
Honestly, I think that's a great way of, it's blending like two worlds of pure entertainment and gaming. So, put a finger down and overlaid with your brand messaging and what your brand stands for. So honestly, like, amazing. So as a super mama yourself, what story would you want to share with us and our listeners today?
So my second son is only 4 months old.
Oh wow, congratulations.
So going back to work and finding time to juggle between spending enough time at home but also delivering in the workspace and making sure that I'm not I'm on top of everything. And then coming back home, especially in Ramadan, to prepare food for the family and still spend time with the kids and all of that. I think it is a very important message to reinforce, because even myself, and I know, I come from media background and marketing, so I know that a lot of things are just advertised. And sometimes I do fall into that, where I also see like, I'm definitely not doing enough. You know, I need to do more of that. I need to spend more time there, and I guilt trip myself. So I think it's important to reinforce that message, and now more than ever, with all that we're exposed to on social media, is to know that we need to keep it real and not be very hard on ourselves. And whatever we do is enough for the family, and it's special in our own way. So there is no such thing as that superhero or super mama. That's a stigma that we need to all demystify.
So you are a super mama as you are.
In my own way, I guess.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you taking time out to share your thoughts, give us a little bit of an insight into the world of food and beverages. Ramadan Kareem.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
Thanks again.